Hi, thanks for watching. This is a video, sort of a follow-up to a prior video I did where I showed how to adjust the older style Omega pin and collar bracelets. Here I will show how to resize or adjust the newer screwed link Omega bracelets. You'll find these bracelets on most of the modern Omegas, at least going back for the past 10-15 years. As you can see, the links have screws in them, and the way these work is there's the same type of screw on each side of the link and a free-floating pin that is behind the screw. So you take off the screws and you push out the pin, and it's a much easier system than the pin and collar because there's no friction fit of pin and collar that you have to use a hammer or pin pusher tool for. So the key here is to have the right screwdriver. That's by far the most important step. It's for this type of bracelet on an Aqua Terra and Seamaster Professional, you need a 1.8 millimeter flat screwdriver. I prefer the brand Wiha, W-I-H-A. The screwdrivers are very inexpensive for something that's high quality, about I think under $10. I highly recommend getting one of these or something similar. You don't want to use, the super cheap screwdrivers or the ones that you find in like a kit from a Harbor Freight type of store. It really makes a difference. If you have a good quality screwdriver, you have much less chance of damaging the screws and a much better fit for loosening tight screws. The size of the screwdriver is also very important. So, like I said, for this type of bracelet, it's 1.8 millimeter. If yours is different, make sure to try to match the size of the screwdriver as closely as possible with the screw. It'll make a huge difference. And you also, another good aspect of it is you won't damage your screwdriver either. When the screwdriver and screw are not a perfect match in size, it's a very good possibility of damaging one or both. So you can use that plastic bracelet holder, which I just showed earlier, to hold the bracelet. But if you're more comfortable just holding it with your other hand, you can do that as well. Opening these screws requires a good amount of force. Generally, if the screw has never been opened before, you just want to press down very hard and turn slowly. If you find a screw is very difficult and you're using a good screwdriver, you may want to then try to heat that part of the bracelet. You can try heating it, just dip it in some very hot water for a little while. That can help as well. I really have never found these screws to be a huge problem to remove, and nothing like the pin and collars that you find on the older bracelets. So, like I said, you take a screw off each side of the same link, and that gives you access to push the pin that's behind the screw. The pin is basically sitting in the middle of the link. When you take the screws off, you can push it out. I like to loosen the screws on the same side at the same time. You obviously need to loosen 2 screws on each side in order to remove a link. So might as well do it while you're, up working on the same side of the watch. And of course, you want to make sure you don't lose the screws. They're very small. You see no screws. You can see the pin in there. And that pin, again, it's not being held by friction or anything. Very easy to remove. You could use a opened up paper clip. I have this little tool which I like, but really anything can be used as long as it's fine enough, a small enough diameter. The pins easily come out. They sometimes can even fall out, but they really shouldn't. That might mean that the bracelet pins are getting too worn down. There it is. That's basically what you need to do to open the bracelet and take a link out. So in this case, I want to put the bracelet back together without that link, but obviously it would be the same procedure if you're opening the bracelet up to add a link. So when you're ready to put it back together, you first have to put the pin in. The pin will go in, but you want to make sure the two ends of the pin are have caught the outer portions of the link. Otherwise, the pin will not be in the proper position, and you won't be able to put one of the screws back because the pin will be sitting too high. So basically, you want to make sure the pin is equidistant from both sides of the bracelet. You probably know this, but a good way to make sure you're putting the screws in without damage is to start counterclockwise and make sure the thread catches correctly. So here I had just put in one side, one screw and the pin. I did not finish the job because I wanted to test the fit. I always think it's good to test along the way, so you don't you save time and you don't have to go redo a step. So here the pin is inside, but it's not seated far enough below. Sometimes it can be tricky. You want to line up the links perfectly so that the pin can, go through the center portion of the link to the outer portion. Sometimes you have to adjust things around to make sure the pin goes in, but at no point do you need to use force. You see, that's a good example of the pin not being in. The pin was not far enough in to allow the screw to catch the threads. So again, I have to try to make sure the pin is where it's supposed to be. It's sticking out too much right there. You see now? And you can see if the pin is seated correctly, because this would be symmetrical when you look at the links this way. If the pin has not caught one side of the link, when you pull on the bracelet, it would become a little bit diagonal. So in hand, this is much simpler than it looks here on the video. And there you go. You can put once the pin is seated correctly, you can easily put the screws back in. Just like I said, you got to be careful. I like to make sure I don't do any cross threading, so I gently reverse the screw to make sure the threads catch, and then just gently screw it back in. You do not need to use much force. Just make sure that it's tight. I have not found the need to use any kind of Loctite or anything. I've really never had one of these screws come undone, but I have read and heard of others who have faced that issue. So if you do have a loose screw, a drop of Loctite on the screw will definitely help. And that's it. I think Omega made a great change by using these bracelets. They're much nicer and easier to work on than the old ones. Hope this was helpful. Thanks.